Hello, grade 6 students. I hope you are fine. Welcome back to another literacy lesson. In our previous lesson, we looked at flashbacks. Today, we are having a new unit, that's Unit 4, known as Time Passing. In this unit, we are going to talk about science fiction stories, and we will see some examples of science fiction stories. So, without wasting a lot of time, let's get started. So, what are science fiction stories? Science fiction stories are stories about science and technology. Most of you have watched movies that have spaceships, robots, aliens, time machines, and stuff like that. These movies are science fiction movies. So, in this unit, we are going to see stories that are like these movies. If you are to write a science fiction story, what should you include in your story? What should your story look like? In other words, we are talking about the features of science fiction stories. Okay, 1. If you are to write a science fiction story, what should be there? 1. You can write about time travel. Okay, meaning traveling into the future or traveling back in time. You can also write about traveling to outer space, meaning traveling to other planets. The story can also be about technology that has never been seen before. So many writers in the past wrote about technology that has just come to exist these days. For example, some writers long time ago wrote about flying cars, and here we are. We see flying cars being made. You can also write about robots, aliens, mutants, and any imaginary creature, as long as it's not magical. The story can also be about an imaginary world, for example, underground world or a world in water, and it can also be about scientific experiments. So these are the features of science fiction stories. In other words, if you are to write a science fiction story, you can write about time travel, traveling to outer space, technology that has never been seen before, robots, aliens, mutants, and so on. You can also write about imaginary worlds, and you can write about science or scientific experiments. As I said at the beginning of this lesson, we are going to look at an example, or we are going to see an example of a science fiction story. But before we see it, there are some words that we need, or we have to get familiar with. The words are voyage, ration, hue, colony, empathise, and promontory. Let's see the meanings of these words. Voyage. Voyage means a long journey on a ship or a spacecraft. Ration means a limited amount of something one is allowed to have, especially when there is not much of it available. What does it mean? In some situation, some things may not be enough in a country, and the government decides to limit the amount of something someone or a family should get. For example, let's say bread. Bread isn't enough for the people in the country. The government may decide that a family should not have more than 20 pieces of bread a day. So this means that bread rations for each family is 20. That's the meaning of ration. Then we go to hue. Hue means color. Colony means a group of people with the same interests and same origin living in a particular area. To empathize. Empathize means what? Empathize means to be able to understand how someone else feels. Then promontory means a cliff. So these are the words that I wanted you to know before we do the reading. Now we've seen the definition of science fiction. We've seen the features of science fiction, what someone should write about in science fiction, and we have seen some vocabulary that are very useful for our coming reading. What you're going to do here is to copy the definition, definition of science fiction, and copy down the features of science fiction, and lastly the vocabulary we have seen plus their meaning. I will leave you with homework on page 57 and page 58. There is a story. It's a science fiction story. The story is called The Green Book, and your task here is to go through the story, try your best to understand what's happening in the story, and don't forget to try to figure out the features that have been used in this story. That's all that we have for today. Hope to see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.